Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the origin of Manbaby is that I used to work in adult entertainment.
It was released this year or last year?
It was released in, this year, so August 17th of this year. So
August.
I think this is the first podcast where I'm talking about the Tubi release. You know,
Cool.
this is true.
Well, you know what? We should. I should apologize to you. Tim actually wanted to do a rerun forensics of Pee Wee
Awesome.
Big Adventure.
It's just a perfect little movie, Pee Wee's Big Adventure, written by Paul Reubens, and we know it's Paul Reubens now. But when I was a kid, you know, this was Pee Wee Herman.
So it really surprised me that I did enjoy the movie, despite the fact that he spends half of it dressed as a child.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very appreciative to hear that.
We are virtually meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So is there anything that's off limits? I know that in a couple of your articles you mentioned fetish.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the origin of Manbaby is that I used to work in adult entertainment. So I mean, we can take the interview wherever we want to go. But Manbaby is of course a relatively family-friendly film. I'd say it's a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, at least. Although the subject matter might put it up into R in some circles.
Yep, exactly.
Because
that's what I think is kind of cool about it.
She basically, in a sense, kidnaps him.
Yeah. I mean, she does. I would even use a stronger word. I would say that there's, rape involved, essentially. You know,
in a sense. Although she doesn't. I mean, does she? There's nothing in the movie that shows a sexual relationship between her and the baby.
Right. I guess I'm talking about, like Sal's actions towards her. She's, he's kind of maybe turned on by his performance, his first trick. Either way, he's lying. He's doing a terrible thing to her. And then of course, her revenge is that thermometer in that scene where there's a pretty
very
aggressive assault. So
but then for her, that wasn't enough.
No, it certainly wasn't.
Her making him a real baby by chemically altering him hormonally.
So are we spoiling everything in the movie?
We can spoil it all. I love it.
We're talking about the movie Manbaby by Tim Lightell, which is available on Tubi, right?
Yes, we're actually streaming on Tubi, Momentu right now, and Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Yeah, so if for some reason you want to give Jeff Bezos more money, you can do that on Amazon. But I would prefer to see people stream it on Tubi.
Right.
Just do a search on your smart TV and watch it. Get some commercial breaks, but who cares?
We have Prime because a lot of the stuff that I need, we order it on Amazon.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I have a Prime account too. It's
right.
Politically, I'd rather not support Amazon, but practically, it is very, very useful.
Work.
Right.
Yeah, there's things that I use and need, medically speaking, that if I were to get it, if I got it from my insurance, it would be like $3,000. And on Amazon, it was $500. I sleep apnea machine.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
So it was just way cheaper to get it off Amazon than from the insurance, because they wanted us to rent it for a year for my part would have been $120 a month. And then at the end of the year, whatever the remainder balance was, and I can't understand where all the money's going, because you can buy the exact same machine on Amazon with a 3-year.
That's due to slave labor. Let's make that clear.
Yeah. It's a brave new world for sure.
Due to a lot of things.
It's a brave new world.
It is. If you want to watch, for example, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, the only way you're going to do that is through Amazon.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to watch that. If you haven't seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
I have, yeah.
So good.
It's pretty funny. It's definitely fun. Yeah, it's a fun one.
Well, there's a lot of
stand up. The Manbaby starts as a stand up, right?
Right.
Yeah, the Manbaby is a stand-up, which I don't have any kind of experience with stand-up comedy. A lot of people kind of find the beginning, the stand-up comedy act, pretty bad, and that was intentional. It
Right.
was
It's
kind of
supposed to be bad stand-up.
anti-comedy, right? It's supposed to be bad. But some people kind of don't get that joke, so that has been interesting to see people's reaction to that. Mainly the idea there was just that he's how to make the character act like a baby.
Right.
That was my idea.
That's the vehicle you use to get to.
Another idea that I had was that maybe he was in a play, that he was acting like a man-baby in a theatrical play. A play based on and I had emailed you this, one of our pitch for the Rewind episodes was the movie The Baby. So that, I don't know have you all seen that one? 1973.
No.
It should be on Tubi, probably on Amazon. It's called The Baby. 70s exploitation movie, much more like horror thriller oriented. And that was a big kind of inspiration for Manbaby. I watched that movie, The Baby, going on 12 years ago now. It was on Netflix at the time, and it's wild. It's a wild movie. I highly recommend it.
Who directed it or stars in it?
Yeah, Ted Post is the director.
Okay.
There's no stars in it. The actor who plays the mother character is just fantastic. She's kind of like a Joan Crawford. She's just real campy. Got a real thick smoker's voice. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious camp movie that I highly recommend. And of course, it's unintentionally funny.
Yeah.
But
like a Lauren Bacall voice.
Yeah, kind of that Lauren Bacall husky, and basically the story is about a social worker who's investigating a case of these three women who have a man baby in their house, and from that there's kind of this thriller horror story that takes place with a shocking ending that I will not give away because y'all haven't seen it yet. I won't give you the spoiler on The Baby, but one of my ideas was. Some Seattle hipsters are putting on a theatrical version of that movie was one of my ideas to get him in. That would have been could have been interesting. And kind of a little bit more realistic, I think, than what we wound up with. And what I wanted was to make a movie that was a little less realistic. I wanted to make something that was a little more surreal, a little closer to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It was another big inspiration. In terms of
driving me nuts.
Cartoon logic, in terms of cartoon logic and kind of surreality. So
I had an impression of the movie before we watched it. I was like, well, this is going to be like Nick Kroll. It's going to be like a Comedy Central type thing. This is going to be over the top, like The League or something. Pretty wild and crazy. And it was. There are parts of it that was by nature, but I mean, it was kind of thought provoking also.
Yeah, it was very. I definitely see the mixture of the ridiculous and art film.
Because it
I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, that's definitely part of it, is to try to mix the high and the low.
Because the story was good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hit you right from the top with a very serious, weighty theme that resonated with us, and that was the idea of a couple that does not have a child.
Right, and they're conflicted. One of them does not want children, and the other one does.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of disarming right from the top. That started you to think, and then then you go into the comedy and everything else in the plot, and that was unexpected.
I love the therapy part where they go in there and just 30 seconds in, she's like, "Yeah, you never should have gotten married.
Right. You should get a divorce."
Yeah.
I mean, I
think she's unhappy.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are kind of universal things, right? Because even people who have children, people who don't have children. I personally don't have children.
Neither do we.
Right. There are things that you have to consider in life.
I have God's children.
Yeah. I have
Aaron
a
has
rescue
4
dog
kids
as
and
well.
2 grandchildren and a grand dog.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that I think everybody thinks about on some level, no matter who you are, no matter what, it's universal. And that's kind of what we were trying to do, as it came down to putting this together and getting down to the heart of the story, beyond the script. So, yeah.
I like the soundtrack too. A lot of Danse Macabre.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Fantasia.
Fantasia on a theme. Definitely tried to stick to everything that was, public domain, because this was made for very, very little money, as is pretty obvious. Doing this all on a shoestring, and so we couldn't afford.
When you did your Kickstarter, were you on podcasts?
No. I just started doing podcasts this past year, starting actually in summer, so before August, when we did the theatrical release, because we did have a limited theatrical release here in Seattle and in Portland and Los Angeles, and so I tried to.
I'd wondered if I'd heard you before on a podcast, but I guess I had not.
Yeah, not back during the Kickstarter.
Maybe Asa did a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. When we did our Kickstarter, we had so this is something maybe you're not aware of, and it's kind of a little inside baseball, I guess. When we did the first Kickstarter, we had a fake me. We had a fake Tim Lightell, and we have the videos, those Kickstarter videos. Those are on the Vimeo page. If you buy the movie on Vimeo, you can actually get those videos. They were on YouTube and put them behind the Vimeo paywall. But essentially, I kind of find like the whole Kickstarter thing, like, please give me money. Like, it's a little, I don't know. It's complicated.
Cool way for people to get their name in a movie, though.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think what Kickstarter does is so great to kind of democratize the thing and let people raise money for things. But at the same token, I guess maybe it's just a personal thing. Like, I personally feel embarrassed, like, asking for money, perhaps. So I had
feels like panhandling kind.
Yeah, I don't know. So what I did was in the style of Manbaby, I kind of spoofed the idea of Kickstarter videos, and I had a guy a great comedian, performer here in Seattle. His name's Tony Howe. Shout out to Tony Howe if he's around anymore. I think he moved to Florida. But anyway, Tony played me, and he played me as kind of this like egotistical, blowhard, I don't know, just kind of a real a-hole. And it was really funny. I thought I've had a fun time doing that, and people like those Kickstarters, and they were pretty popular. It didn't help us reach funding for our second Kickstarter, unfortunately, but the first Kickstarter did get funding, so that was good.
So
sorry, went off on a tangent there.
Oh, that's cool.
No.
On it.
That's what it's about.
Very irrelevant to the movie, actually. That was 2014. That was a long time ago. It took us a long time to make this movie because we were making it for no money. So
that was my next question. Was how long was it in your head before it was released? It was released this year or last year?
It was released this year, so August 17th of this year. So
August. Okay.
This is right. Fresh, hot off.
Very fresh.
Very fresh. Yeah, this is I think this is the first podcast where I'm talking about the Tubi release.
Cool.
I kind of cooled off promotions, after we did the theatrical thing because of money and time. But yeah, I would like to get more people to watch it. Have been kind of pushing for more festivals and that sort of thing over the course of the next quarter. It took give or take 10 years. It was about a year of writing the script. It was about a year and a little bit in production, and then there was a big gap because I say this all the time that I kind of build the plane as I'm flying it in everything in my life. And this movie was no exception. I basically ran out of money, for at least a few years. And then just personally, I moved with my partner to Portland from Seattle, which was for their job. And so that kind of I feel like it set me back a little bit, financially, emotionally, and just practically, because we had shot it in Seattle, and so all the people involved were in Seattle.
Yeah.
But we finally did finish it. You know, the pandemic was kind of a blessing and a curse, because it forced a lot of time in editing, which was cool. We could really drill down into the edit. The guy who was kind of like a co-writer on the script, not really a co-writer, but he's my editor, producer, been my friend since film school. You know, we've been making movies together for 20 years. He kind of edited the script as well as edited the movie, and we kind of do that together. So we kind of, you know, he does an edit, I do an edit, and we did that with the script, and we did that with the final footage. Unfortunately, he wasn't in the production part, which I think is maybe a better way to do it too, because he wasn't as emotionally attached to the footage the way that I was.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So he kind of came in the beginning, and he kind of came in at the end, and you know, couldn't have done it without him. Couldn't have done it with all the people, you know, that are such a big part of it.
Editing really does make a difference.
I think so, and it's definitely like my favorite part of the process. You know, I'm not a huge fan of being on set and having to talk to people, and I like to be in my room on my computer,
creative,
playing with the footage. You know?
Well, so we should mention that the actor that played Sal Howard was Asa Fager.
That's right. Yeah, they're pronouncing that right. Asa Fager.
Okay.
Yeah, Asa Fager, and he now he lives in Portland. He moved out of Seattle in the past year, but he's a great actor. He's done a lot of theater. Would
you say he's a comic actor? Is he a comedian, or is he?
He's not a comedian. No, he's a comic actor, theatrical actor. He does a lot of theater work, and he's actually a writer and a producer. He had a play produced a couple of years ago. He's a big comic book fan. He produced a play. I believe. I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I believe he produced a play about Jack Kirby, the guy who created the Fantastic Four with Stan Lee. Yeah. So yeah, Ace is very, very talented guy, very talented actor. Obviously, in the movie, he holds the movie together in a really cool way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to write the tattoo into the script?
I did. Yeah, we had to because he is heavily tattooed. Those are all real. As at the premiere, he showed the audience that indeed the tattoos were real. They were not digital creations.
Right.
Or makeup. You can do temporary
makeup. That's true. That is true.
A lot of people use them to cover scars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had this theory
if
that
they go to the beach or something.
Yeah.
I had this theory that the only good comedies are the ones that have comics in it. You know, I really interesting. I'm leery of like Reba, you know, and different one, like George Foreman got a sitcom once. I was like, you know. I just wondered when you casted the movie if you were looking for a comedian, or if you were just trying to find a talented actor that could execute your vision.
Yeah, it's interesting. There were a lot of auditions for sure. You know, we definitely saw quite a few different Sals and kind of thought about it in a bunch of different ways. But you know, it's worth mentioning too that like the script and the auditions are kind of, you know, balancing act, and they're kind of happening simultaneously. So I had the script, and we were having the actors audition with the script as written then, but that was not the draft that we actually like shot and finished. Definitely rewrote for the actors. So once I knew like, okay, I can get Asa and he's gonna do it, then I kind of was, you know, I was writing for him, for his voice, and the same for all the actors. You know, it was definitely like a, you know, a spinning plates kind of thing where it's like, okay, I wrote it one way, but
Michael Carmichael is a pretty hilarious character too.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
He was.
Definitely, you know, written for like Tom's thing that he does. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I knew I had the guy who was going to be the bad guy.
Slow creepy.
Would you say slow creepy?
That's great.
Slow creepy. Well, yeah, slow creepy, but yeah, but he just came off as very creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Originally we thought of Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
but then when I met Tom, and he kind of did his Adam West thing that he did.
Yeah. Oh, I can
said,
see that now that you mention it.
Yeah. I said, okay, well, now we're gonna
a slow burn Adam West.
Yeah. So we changed it up a little bit for him, kind of away from the, but there are some there's still some nods to that in the script. Like, I think he's, she says, "I love your muscles," and I think it's funnier that way, that he's not a real, buff guy, that he,
right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
Compared to her husband, he had the flat.
This is true.
Well, you know what? I should apologize to you. When we had a number of guests that we had to book, like, all together. We're like really heavily booked right now.
Had to.
And for this period of time, I sent out a feeler. Like, for the first time with our guests, I was like giving them options of what we should talk about and everything like that. And almost everybody wanted to say, "Oh, I want to do a straight interview and talk about my project." And Tim actually wanted to do a rerun forensics of Pee Wee
awesome.
Big Adventure, which
very cool.
I was really excited about doing, but then it got some, while we were watching Manbaby, Tim was watching Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So let's talk a little bit about your inspiration. I know that John Waters is an inspiration to you.
It's very John Waters vibe now that you mention it.
What's that, Aaron?
Awesome. I said it was a very John Waters vibe now that you mention it. Yeah. Baby.
That's great to hear. Yeah, great to hear.
Paul Bartel, Mary Warrenov, Death Race 3000.
Oh yeah. I love all those.
Now let me ask you: Are you a fan of Mary Warrenof's art?
I don't know much about Mary Warrenof's art, actually. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I mean, I think she's a wonderful actor and so beautiful, and I'm a big fan.
What about her art? I know nothing about her art. Lisa, what about it?
I enjoy her art.
Oh, okay.
I like the colorfulness of it, and I wouldn't say cartoonish, but it's a more of a like a
stylized,
realish landscape type thing.
Interesting.
Yeah,
she has the connections.
At least the part I like, but I like her strong use of color. Okay, I'm sorry.
No. She goes back to like the Andy Warhol factory.
Oh wow.
Velvet Underground, that type of stuff. So, and I know that you talked about the members of your crew all being very artistic, different media.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody out here that was working on Manbaby was, we were all, I mean, obviously none of us are getting rich on it. And so it's a passion thing. And, they were helping me with my art, and and of course they all have, their own projects that they're doing. And as much as I could help out with that, I tried, but definitely all very artistic. Asa, like I mentioned, playwright, producer. Sydney's a tattoo artist, also just a very talented artist, drawing artist in general. So she's got a lot of great art. You can check her out on Instagram, Sydney Jane Art.
Okay.
Tom Michael Carmichael, another great theatrical actor. Like he's in good stuff. I know he's written. Pretty sure he's written a play about RFK that he is still trying to get produced, or maybe it has been produced. I should come more prepared with information to promote them. But yeah, everybody, and then of course the the director of photography, Rakesh, is a fantastic still photographer of nature, and also just a great DP. He's done a couple features besides Manbaby. Now, Manbaby was his first, which maybe is a little evident, but he's definitely gotten better as a DP. He was a recent film school graduate of Seattle Film Institute, which is where a lot of the crew came from. A lot of the crew were like recent graduates or like even still students, and that was kind of how I pieced together a crew, is just kind of like the educational opportunity.
Thank you for doing it, because we can review this, we can check out some of that stuff. We always want to support creative people.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, did any of them get like school credit?
No, unfortunately nobody got school credit, but they got School of Hard Knocks for sure.
My son does
a
lot of work on student films. He's been second AD and second AC on a few things, and I don't know if he's got anything coming up right now, but a friend of mine that I work with retired recently and got his MFA in film, and he's been hooking him up with all these little projects, so he's learning too at the School of Hard Knocks. It's kind of cool.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool.
It's been awesome meeting all these filmmakers. I've always been curious about it. Since there would be books about Hitchcock at the library. I'd get, I just like when I had free time or free bell, I'd go to the library and I'd look through these books. And a lot of times I'd find myself going to look at filmmaking, even though I never got into it myself, but I've always been curious about it. So it's been great to meet so many. But we talked about talking about your inspirations, and one of them is Paul Reubens, right?
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman, the great one. Pee Wee's Big Adventure was a huge movie for me in my childhood. I feel like it's got that it's just a perfect little movie, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And it's not
with Pee Wee's Playhouse as well.
I did. I grew up with Pee Wee's Playhouse for sure. But Big Adventure was for me kind of
Big Adventure was more my introduction to Pee Wee too. Well, other than like Johnny Carson, David Letterman, when he'd go on as a stand-up in character all the time. Before
see, I didn't even have a concept of him as a stand-up comic, I know there was
probably a little older than you are.
Yeah, I guess there was an HBO show of his live show, that he had a live show that was very, very popular, and that was and even when I was a kid, that was in the air, it was in the ether. Yeah. But Big Adventure was the first time that I had really just been aware of him, and it was kind of the other interesting thing about Pee Wee's Big Adventure for me, and I know it doesn't seem like a direct one-to-one for Manbaby, but it is kind of the first movie for me personally where I saw a movie as a movie, if that makes sense, where the movie itself calls attention to the idea that you're watching a film. And this is a film that people have made and that you can do this too. And so it definitely, is inspiring in a way bigger way than I can really even verbalize. Because is that
the beginning when everything makes his breakfast and the waking up sequence?
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, so I watched it last night for the podcast, and I took some notes, and the very first thing that I noticed, which I don't know if you remember this from your last watching, was it's credited for me. It's credited Pee Wee Herman in, and at the end credits it's the same thing, Pee Wee Herman as himself. And, written by Paul Reubens, and we know it's Paul Reubens now, but when I was a kid, this was Pee Wee Herman. This was a real.
When he'd go on David Letterman, he wasn't Paul Reubens. He was Pee Wee Herman.
Right. And so I think that that's just really kind of, it's really artistic. It's really interesting. It's really thought provoking. But it's also calling attention to this is
like Andy Kaufman level.
Yeah. Is it method acting?
Yeah.
That method acting, maybe.
I mean, I think that's
method characterization, maybe.
Yeah, a bit different from method acting. I don't know if it's more
method so much as
it's just performance art, I think, right?
Commitment to the bit.
Call that, commitment to the bit.
Okay.
Just true commitment.
Do you think he kind of almost lived as Pee Wee Herman somewhat? Or do you think he really did separate?
He could turn it on and off.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've understood, that he would turn it on and off.
Okay.
Which I think just adds to
that's healthier.
How cool it is,
As opposed to Andy Kaufman, who wouldn't turn it on.
Right.
There is an Andy Kaufman Easter egg in Manbaby. I don't know if anybody noticed. Did you notice the Andy Kaufman Easter egg?
One.
In Sal's little playroom, in his basement playroom, there's a brief scene where we see hanging on his wall, he's got a picture of Andy Kaufman and Curly from the Three Stooges and Jerry Lewis.
I did see Jerry Lewis.
If you go back to that same, if you remember Jerry Lewis, then you go back to that scene and you'll briefly see Andy Kaufman.
Okay.
Awesome. So I remember Pee Wee's, his bicycle got stolen, right?
Yes, that is the inciting action.
Right.
Pee Wee's Big Adventure. He, we set up that Pee Wee lives in this kind of other world. Right away, the opening of Pee Wee's Big Adventure is a dream. He's dreaming about winning the Tour de France, and right away we know that he loves his bike, and we also know that we're in a dream world. We're in a kind of, it's real people, but it's also cartoons, and that really, I think that's kind of the 1-for-1 inspiration for Manbaby, is that we wanted Manbaby to have a similar kind of like cartoon logic. It's the real world, but it's not really the real world. And how do we do that? And in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, I mean, they do it so much better than I could ever do it in Manbaby by just the performance of Paul Rubens, just Pee Wee's performance. He's such a good actor. The intonations of his voice, his body language. I mean, it's something else.
Yeah.
Right.
and then to lay on top of that, and obviously, I mean, production design, I'm not sure about the budget of Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I mean, I think we're probably talking about a $6 to $10 million movie, which nowadays would be a lot more
10 times
than that. But I think at that time that was pretty low to medium,
pretty good budget.
but a pretty good budget, way more than I had to do.
You got the Large Marge CGI to contend with.
Yeah, Large Marge, the dinosaur stop motion animation.
That's right, the dinosaur.
And when he's in the dark, he gets kicked out of Mickey's car, and there are cartoon eyes where he literally becomes a cartoon in that scene. So just kind of fascinating to me. How you can be in the real world, but also be in a cartoon at the same time.
Well, I remember he would always carry on dialogue too with the audience. Like he would turn to the audience or
break the fourth wall.
Yeah, break the fourth wall constantly. It seemed like.
Interesting.
Maybe not in the movie, but
yeah, I didn't really notice that as much in Big Adventure.
It was more in the TV show.
Yeah. I think you're thinking of Pee Wee's Playhouse for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a story about that movie. I saw it twice in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to see it one time, like within 3 days, I saw it twice. Because the first time I went with a friend or somebody, and I'm sitting there in the audience, and there was a scene in the movie, the truck scene, right, where he's hitchhiking. I think
the Large Marge scene.
Is that the Large Marge scene where he gets in the truck? And
tell him Large Marge sent you.
Yeah. And then somebody in the crowd, when I was at the theater, yelled out something really funny. And the audience laughed. Like it was a big crowd and everybody laughed. And I took note of that. So I took a girl on a date 2 days later, and I'm sitting in the theater, a similar crowd. And at that very same moment, I made the exact same joke, and the crowd responded the same way. And I thought I made some points there with my girlfriend.
Did you get a second date?
I didn't take advantage of it. No.
It's too bad.
But yeah, so I was
twice in 3 days.
Material, but yeah.
Twice in 3 days and joke thievery.
I will tell you our story. We met in August of 1993, and we went on our first date on December 8th, and we got married on January 1st. And I have the feeling we might not have had what you would call second date if it wasn't for the fact that he basically moved in with me. He came over for our first date, and he never went home.
Interesting.
And it's been 28 years. It'll be 29 years, January 1st.
Wow. Huh. That makes a good movie, potentially.
Could be. We'll talk.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to make that movie. It's kind of an interesting thing.
It does. That does interest me, for sure.
Well, another thing I liked in Manbaby was that toward the end, the futuristic vehicles and lawnmower.
Yeah.
And
the
I'm
little
glad.
satellite thing with was that a drone kind of with the
kind of a kind of just, trying to show that we're 40, we're fast. We wanted to flash forward about 40, 50 years without putting a title card up that says 40 years later,
Yeah.
And so I think we did it in a pretty good way. I think it's kind of interesting. And I think, that's, you kind of talked about how it feels a little art filmy. And I feel like that's where the real art comes out of it, is that we're going to very aggressively, very intentionally change the movie, completely for the last, 10 minutes there, the last act.
It's much more serious.
Yeah, which I think, interestingly enough, I mean, I think, Pee-wee's Big Adventure kind of does that. The last sequence in Pee-wee is that great chase in the movie studio, if y'all remember that. And that to me, when I was 6 years old watching that, again, it's calling attention to the fact, like, you're watching a movie and people are making movies and he's running through the movie. And then, of course, at the end, we're at the drive-in and he's watching a movie about the movie, And so
Blazing Saddles did that too, right?
That's true. Yeah.
That was an homage to that.
Yeah. I think so. Probably they were aware of that. But of course, I was not, as a little kid. And so
6-year-old.
And I don't think I was allowed to watch Blazing Saddles until I was, 13 maybe, or 14. My parents were weird. They were restrictive about, some things, and then other things they weren't. It's weird.
Pee-wee was subversive enough that you got
right. Yeah.
Yeah, because it almost comes off as a live action comic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
I also, sorry, I wanted the set decoration, the bar. There are a bunch of signs that say bar. Was it yellow tape making arrows that pointed to these shells that just had liquor on them?
Yeah. And what's funny about that is that's real. So like it seems like it's like set design, like it seems like it's like, oh, they didn't have a lot of money, so they did this.
But that's the real bar.
But that was actually a real bar in the real theater that we were shooting in. Yeah.
That's excellent.
Pretty funny.
I love that.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I think it's kind of funny too. It's interesting.
So I saw a comment that you said you don't necessarily look at this movie, or you don't aspire for the movie to be transgressive. And I was kind of curious what you meant by that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't. This movie's not meant to shock anyone. It's not meant. It's exactly what I said. It's not meant to be transgressive in any way. It's not meant to be,
peeing in the face aside.
Yeah. This is not an FU to anybody. This is not a. It is kind of a punk movie in the sense that it's made with that like DIY kind of idea.
Totally
So there's a little bit of that punk nature, but it's not. We're not spitting at anyone. We're not trying to make fun of anyone. We're not saying anyone's bad or
shitting on anybody.
Yeah, we're not saying anything's bad or good. We're just trying to get people to think, and maybe that's a little, too woo-woo or something. But I'm just trying to get people to think. We're just trying to kind of say, okay, here are some things to think about, and what do you think about them? Which, I have my own opinions, and I think I tried to keep I think my personal, opinions about things, hopefully don't come through. Hopefully this movie is more of an artistic statement, a work of art, where somebody who thinks about things one way can come at it one way. Somebody who thinks about things another way can come at it their way. And they can both kind of enjoy it and laugh at it, maybe even cry. Some people have said that some parts in this movie make them cry, which makes me feel really, really good. Not that I want to make people cry, but I want them to feel strong emotions. I want to either make them laugh or make them cry or make them squirm a little bit. Maybe it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not designed to say, hey, you need to do this or you need to do that, or we need to, upend everything. If that makes sense. I don't know.
But I didn't find the dialogue
Made me
being
laugh
forced
a
or
lot.
anything, or I
Yeah.
found it to be pretty genuine. You know,
Great.
I
Yeah.
think two things here. One, I did not expect to enjoy the movie. I'm going to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I don't find men dressed as babies to be, I don't find it truly offensive, but I just don't think it's funny. I don't get the humor, and I don't find it to be an attractive thing for me.
didn't Jonathan Winters used to do that? Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
that
he used to, yeah. Well, that's because he was the child.
Right.
But
But
he did it
didn't
before
do that.
Mork and Mindy too, and his
Yeah.
stand-up bit.
So it really surprised me that I did enjoy the movie, despite the fact that he spends half of it dressed as a child.
Well, thank you very much. That I'm very appreciative to hear that.
And when the main advertised premise is something that you don't care for, and then you see the movie and you actually like it
anyway.
That was a nice surprise.
That is a challenge with this movie, because I feel like a lot of people who see the main advertised premise who say, "Oh, I want to see that," then they see it and they're disappointed. So it's kind of a,
Catch-22.
It is, Catch-22 is a good way of putting it. Sometimes, but I think
I
there
did
is
see a review. Somebody was like into like baby stuff. Said, "Well, for that, I wouldn't give this."
Right, exactly. But I do think
it was a bad review from them.
there is a bit of a Venn diagram of people who, are intrigued by the trailer and then who also will enjoy it. There are some people. There are both. So it's just kind of finding those folks, but. But I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm glad it surprised you. That's the other thing. I mean, I do see a lot of reviews online. Surprise is a big word. Surprise that they enjoyed it as much as they did.
I got a kick out of the priest too. The faces the priest makes up throughout. A lot of those things are going on.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
He's actually the only. Another little fun fact. He's the only non-actor in the movie. So movies like mine that are so low budget, they usually have a lot of like non-actors, but all my actors are real actors. They've acted professionally, all of them, except for him. At the time, he was not a professional actor, but since he's been a professional actor, and he's actually a professional set photographer, so he does that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You don't always see priests with earrings either.
Yeah, he gets the earring. He lived it up. He lived it up at the end of the ride.
Yeah.
Got that earring.
Yeah. The second thing that I wanted to ask about, there was, in particular, towards the end, there was the footage of the creek or river, a small river.
Yeah.
And that was there was a usage of that.
Yeah.
Maybe moving forward. And I was wondering if you're a fan of Ed Wood.
I love Ed Wood.
Me too.
Another Tim Burton movie. I love. Are we talking the director or the movie? Ed
Probably
Wood?
talking both.
Both.
Yeah, of course.
The first bad movie that my dad ever showed me was Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Yes.
Wow.
And I loved that movie. Thought it was so fun.
You know what? Every movie from there is up.
And the,
What'd you say?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
From there, you can't go anywhere but up.
Yeah, right.
He shows you the worst movie of all time to start.
Sadly, he did not go up. Not really.
Did Ed Wood do Glenn or Glinda too?
He did. Yeah, I've watched both. That's the two Ed Wood movies that I know and love.
So now I know that Phil Huey has a relationship with Baby Huey. I think not a fan, right?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Not when it's like used as a nickname by someone I don't necessarily care for or something, But, no, it doesn't bother me too much. Sure, it doesn't bother me too much.
I know that I don't think I ever tried to call you Baby Huey or something, but I got the vibe a long time ago that you didn't like Baby Huey.
Well, I didn't like it, like from Mark Jennings, some of the assholes we went to school with.
But the character yourself, you were fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with the character. Yeah, and the helicopter too, and the singer. So yeah. But yeah, there were some people. Some people would have called me, like, if you were to call me Baby Huey, I would be fine with Darren. But
Baby Huey makes a guest appearance in
exactly.
Manbaby.
So it brings it all on.
That's what brings it up. We, I do not like Baby Huey. I actually watched that full cartoon that we used the clip of in the movie.
Yeah.
That has got to be one of the most unentertaining cartoons I've ever seen in my life. I mean, real bad, real poorly done.
And then the year that we got married,
Hardy Comics or something.
It's a Hardy comic.
The year that we got married, they re-released some of those TV things, and they did like newer versions. And I was like, great. If we ever have a kid, they're going to have that Baby Huey. And then, when we talked about names, Philip wanted to name the child Harry or Lewis.
Right.
And I was like, no.
I just threw it out there.
Harry Huey. Louis Huey. I like Louis Huey.
I totally whiffed on your.
You don't get to talk, the father of Liam Leckinger. Okay.
That's a good one.
Dewey Huey. You could have Dewey Huey.
Dewey Huey.
No.
Or Louis Huey.
I flat out told Philip that if we named the child Harry Huey, he would have to beat the kid in the morning so that someone who loved to beat him before all the people who didn't like him beat him at school.
He could go by Hank Huey.
Huey.
God, no. I had an Uncle Hank. No.
All right.
I also like the gold, or I wasn't the gold, but the fish.
Oh yes, the fish, the fish.
Yeah, the I want a divorce plop.
Yes.
Yeah.
No animals were harmed in the filming of Manbaby, for sure. Those were.
I wouldn't mind a blue goldfish, but I cannot say that no animals would be harmed.
No,
because I was never good at raising fish.
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
Plus, we have a curious cat who's not afraid of water.
Right.
I'm always curious about the music. We know you've used Dance Macabre, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dance Macabre, Fantasia on a Theme.
Public domain music. Is there any original music? And if so, who?
Yeah, Morgan Cluck-Keel, who's a composer from Seattle, now lives in Scotland for school. He moved out to Scotland. You can look his music up. He's actually selling the original soundtrack that he made on Bandcamp, and you can find that all in the links. If you Google Manbaby, you'll see our website, and all those links will be there. But yeah, Morgan made an original soundtrack for Manbaby. Beyond the public domain stuff. Morgan's also the performer of a lot of the public domain stuff, so he actually. It's his version of Fantasia on a Theme, if that makes sense.
I kind of noticed.
Totally makes sense.
You see that film all the time. You see where they take a popular piece of music and they modify it ever so slightly.
Yeah. That's exactly what we did. So it's his performance. Of course, the kind of the theme song of the movie though is the Everybody Loves a Baby, which is a real old song from the turn of the century. And then we had a performer, Sam Ventura and Ramona Mallory did that great version of it for the end credits. So that's actually not Morgan who did that last song. But super
that's
proud
another
of that.
Public domain one, right?
Yeah, it's in the public domain, and Ramona and Sam recorded that kind of in Sam's studio and put it together, and it just sounds so cool. It sounds like a Broadway show to me. I was so happy to have gotten that from them, and that wasn't, I didn't find that and get their permission. That was specifically made for the movie, which I think is why I'm so proud of it, because I actually had to find them and get them to do that and tell them this crazy idea that I had about this, this old. So the old song, you hear it in the movie earlier during the montage when he's first a baby. You hear like an old recording of it, which is in the public domain, so it's free to use. So I gave them that recording and said, okay, can you take this song and then make it into the modern, how would you do a modern Broadway version of that song? And boy, they did. They made it.
Did a good job. So we just had Ed Hartman on.
Oh, yeah.
We found that movie, As the Earth Turns.
In Seattle. I saw that on Facebook. I love that story. That's so great that y'all had him on, for sure.
Yeah.
He talked about how it was like such an opportunity to be able to score the entire, film as like one orchestral piece. So music is so integral to the films, no matter what the budget or whatever, a good musical score can really top off a movie.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a
talking,
year,
right? Predates words.
Yeah, that's true. That's
right.
true. Yeah,
it was made when talkies were available. He just couldn't afford it.
Oh, can you say that again? I'm sorry, Lisa.
Oh, As the Earth Turns. It was made.
I just mean talk. I mean, I just mean there was music before there was talking in film.
Oh yeah. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah. No, we spent so much time on the music. I mean, we spent a literal calendar year, and we didn't think of it as not in that way as a full orchestral piece going for the whole movie. We thought of it more scene by scene. It was definitely done in chunks because we had so many pre-planned songs. The Everybody Loves a Baby song and Fantasia on a Theme really operated more as like a song rather than like. But yeah, I mean, it did all come together, but it did take time. So.
Well, as we wind down here, why don't we ask, do you have any future projects coming? Any follow-up movies or anything?
Yeah. I'm writing something right now, again, with Joseph Campanelli. We're working on a couple things about like an internet guru who radicalizes a young man and kind of, I guess it's like it's another kind of sci-fi thing, but I think it might be a little bit more of a thriller. So we'll see. I don't have too many details to give you because we're still working on it, but
right.
I'm excited about it, and we'll be putting it together. So
you probably do something as intensive as this, and then the question of what's coming next is probably kind of frustrating because it's like, here's what I just did.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that for sure, but I like to be creative. I'm always making stuff.
Right.
Even
building the plane in flight still.
Yeah. I'm still kind of always just working on something. I'm working on a couple little like smaller projects. Like I'm actually doing a and this is just like for work, but it's like kind of creative. Is that like I'm doing these Spanish translations for a series of animated videos on financial education. So not as exciting as Manbaby but it's still kind of like interesting to me because I'm kind of like I'm learning stuff that I probably should have learned in high school because these are videos like designed for high school kids. So
exactly.
Anyway,
I find American education
have you always spoken Spanish?
Responsible.
So I don't speak Spanish.
Okay.
I'm doing the translation. I'm importing text into Google and I'm copying and pasting.
Oh, you're just translating?
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I'm praying to God that the person who spoke Spanish who did the sync, I'm praying to God that he made that work. So we'll see how it all turns out in the end. But
I've been saying for years that appropriate financial education, and especially including how credit works, it's irresponsible that America does not give at least one course in financial responsibility, use of credit, and all that at every single high school in America. And they do that at the places where you pay for it. Paid education, the wealthier schools where they have where the teachers do they have the kids like invest in stocks, that kind of thing. That's for rich people, not for but you need every school in America should do some kind of financial education, and especially credit management, because we were in our mid-30s and we were dying financially because we had no idea how credit worked when we got married. None.
Yeah. Well,
So
I'm trying. I'm
we
trying.
were out of it. We got out of it.
Doing my part, doing a little bit of a part to that, but
we got out of it and we were able to buy a house within, like, once I realized how to manage the credit, our credit rating was improved by 4 points within a year.
Yeah.
But you know,
we should schedule a Pee-wee.
Yes. Yeah.
definitely.
I didn't realize.
Definitely
Tim, I
want
can't tell you how
love to
I
do
can't
that.
tell you how sorry I am that we flaked
hey,
on.
no, I'm just so appreciative that you're having me on because I get to promote the movie. People will hear this, they'll say, "Hey, this is an interesting movie," and they'll watch it on Tubi, and it gets out there. And even if they don't, even if nobody hears this, you three watched it and enjoyed it, and that makes me so happy. And so I'm just so appreciative. No apologies are necessary. I'd love to come back again.
I'd like to have you back and do the deep dive.
I know you're busy, but I think it'd be great to come back and we can do a deep dive into Pee-wee, because I could talk about Pee-wee for an hour if you're up for hearing it.
I'm in.
And that's what we usually do, about an hour.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I would love that because it is definitely one of the best, like, Hollywood movies ever made, and I can explain why, and we'll have fun. But I'm so appreciative. Please, no apologies. This has been great. I hope we get enough that you can use for the pod, and you can put it out there, and
we'll definitely let you know when it's being released. And
I loved your I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to just also say I loved your Manos episode. I listened to
Thanks.
Manos episode. I thought it was really engaging, so I hope this one will be as engaging for people. I really had a good time.
Sure it will.
Yeah, and I realized we only saw the remastered version, so I completely did not understand why they said it was like the worst movie ever.
Right.
Yeah, because I mean, and I tried to find the bad version because I do love a good bad movie.
Well, Jackie defends it too. She says it, but it's not the worst movie of all.
No,
she's proud of.
She's
proud of it. She's proud of her dad and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, we need your websites, social handles, all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, let's promote it. So, big promotion right now. If you're listening, go to Tubi and type in Manbaby, and you'll find it and come up, and you can watch it. And maybe it's a little bit of a slow start, but stick with it, please. I think you'll be surprised, like Lisa was. Lisa was surprised.
Yeah, and ladies, do not let the guy in the diaper turn you off from the movie, because it's a really good story in spite of the costume.
I love it. And
if you're into people with diapers, it may or may not scratch that itch for you. We don't know.
That's right.
It might not. Some people who are part of the fetish community don't seem to.
Doesn't quite
it doesn't quite scratch that itch, but who knows? I think that those people still might enjoy a heartfelt tale with a little comedy and pathos.
Yeah, it made you laugh. It there was a moment where I teared up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say cried, but I did tear up. We had at the end, that's what we went through with Philip's mom. And she lived with us for 2 years before we finally had to, say we couldn't keep doing it.
Tables just keep turning in that movie.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's feeding her applesauce.
Yeah.
And that was
very intentional.
And I found that to be, I don't know, a redemption. It was is the infinity symbol.
Oh yeah.
The worm or a Boris. You went back to, Yeah.
All right.
I love it. Well, thank you all so much. And and then you could just Google Manbaby movie if Tubi doesn't work for you, manbabymovie.com. And a simple Google search for Manbaby. There used to be an artist in Portland who was Manbaby.
One word, Manbaby.
Yeah, we've really surpassed all on Google right now. Manbaby. I mean, there is the Manbaby meme.
That's who I heard on an old podcast was the Portland
artist, maybe.
Artist.
Yeah. Very, very talented guy, like super great stuff, but just not as active online as I am. I'm all over the internet, and so I'm just gonna beat him by sheer volume.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Way it goes. But thank you so much.
You know what? I'll Google it every day just to help.
Right on.
Why not?
All right, Tim.
All right. We'll see you for Pee Wee.
Okay. Yeah.
We
Take
have
care.
Social.
Twitter,
Yeah. Pod.
Instagram,
Yeah. Pod.
Facebook,
Yeah. Pod.
website.
www.YEAH-UH-HUH.com. So let us know. Hit us back. Have a great week.